Hey everyone, I'm Nikhil Kassetty, AI and FinTech thought leader and a seasoned software engineer with over 13 years of experience. And I've experience building scalable intelligent systems across global financial platforms. Today, I'm excited to share a forward looking perspective on a topic that blends technology, innovation with sustainability. The topic named today is AI powered payment gateways for green finance. As financial systems move beyond just speed and efficiency, the next leap is about environmental responsibility that we have to take care of. And this is where LLM agents and intelligent infrastructure can help by tracking carbon impact in real time, routing payments through low energy networks, and also automating the ESG compliance. This is just not about being like a theoretical kind of thing, but it's more about building software that can drive meaningful impact for the future generations and how the overall ESG compliance can be taken care of. Now let's explore how that looks like. So before we actually jump into the details, let's take a moment to understand what we mean by green finance. At its core, green finance refers to it's like any financial activity, but be it like investment, lending, or payment, that's more aligned with sustainability goals here. So that means like when we try to invest money or like when we try to do some funding, it's more about funding clean energy, supporting low carbon projects, or also designing systems that reduce environmental impact. So you'll also hear the term ESG a lot throughout this presentation. So what ESG stands for? So environmental, social, and governance. So this is a framework ideally the investors now use to evaluate the companies, not just by how profitable they are, but also how responsibly they operate. So ESG helps shift the financial world from being profit only to also being profit with purpose. So now let's see like why does this actually matter? So what exactly is green and finance and why are they coming together? So as we see, climate change has become a financial issue altogether, not just as an environmental one, but also investors are actively looking for businesses that are future proof, and that means carbon aware, transparent, and ethical. So where do these things stand today, like in terms of numbers? So as we see, like in 2023, the sustainable investments were hit like around 35 trillion worldwide, and now ESG assets are projected to cross 50 trillion by 2025. The next thing, as we see, like based on these numbers, that another thing is like green bonds, where we used to fund environmental projects, like that also surpassed like 500 billion in issuance in last few years. Like when we look at the numbers, so this is no longer like a niche or very specific core subject to only few people now. This has become like a mainstream finance going green. And now the question is, how can AI and LLM agents in particular also help us scale this moment or like overall things even further? Now that we have seen the momentum behind green finance and what is the importance, so it's also important to recognize the technological force that's enabling us this massive transformation across the financial world, and that's artificial intelligence, definitely. So AI is no longer just a future idea; it's more about like being active, critical part of how financial systems operate today. So as we see, the financial AI market alone is projected to reach about 67 billion by 2030, which is like a huge number, which is also driven by increased adoption across banks, fintechs, insurers, and also the asset managers. But what exactly is AI doing in these systems? Let's like break it down on a high level. So it does help in the fraud detection and risk assessment. So it helps like the machine learning models analyze thousands of signals in real time to detect suspicious activities and prevent financial crimes. AI also helps identify anomalies that would be invisible for traditional systems, making financial transactions more safer and more resilient. And next important thing would be like customer service and interaction. So how AI helps in the customer service and interaction altogether. Like this is not a new thing, but to just give on a high level. So the natural language processing and a branch of artificial intelligence, which we actually consider. So which more likely powers a lot of chatbots like virtual assistants and personalized banking services. It's not just about answering the frequently asked questions or looking into some important questions or something that people try to know. AI can now resolve more client queries, recommending the financial products and also offer more, I'd say, dynamic risk advices too. So coming the another thing before we get into why it's more important. So another thing is also the operational efficiency. So AI optimizes backend processes like loan underwriting, claims processing, compliance reporting, and also the portfolio management, which also reduces time, errors, and cost for us. So what's important here is that AI is not just enhancing speed or efficiency here. It's fundamentally changing how decisions are made inside financial institutions. And here's why this matters for us today. So, in other words, what I would like to say is like if we can think about this, if AI can reroute a payment to minimize fraud risk, like there are several ways payment can be routed to. But if AI can decide where the payment should be routed to, it can also reroute a payment to minimize the carbon footprint as well. So that is how AI can personalize a financial product based on a client's financial history. It can also uh, personalize offerings based on their sustainability preferences as well. Because I've seen people who are really interested in sustainability and try to use some products which are towards more sustainable and also like more of carbon aware in the future. So this is a bridge we are about to cross, using more proven AI capabilities, not just for the financial performance, but also for the planetary performance too. So in the next few slides, we'll explore how AI powered agents, specifically large language models, can embed inside these payment gateways to drive real-time sustainability and also like the intelligent financial ecosystems. So, as we have seen how AI is already transforming finance broadly, now let's zoom into the next thing that we want to look into. As I was talking about embedding the LLM agents directly into payment gateways to enable the real time, intelligent, and sustainable transactions. So, what exactly this mean? So, let's get a little technical. It's not too technical, but it's more about like on a high level how these models can work. So large language models can be fine tuned with sustainability data sets and also like the emission factor databases and transactional metadata. So this can analyze transaction level data, including the merchant category codes, payment location, payment amount, and the method of the payment to estimate the associated carbon footprint instantly at the point of transactions. So we can just like it look at like a live carbon calculator running behind every payment API call, which so by which we can decide like which route we have to go to. So altogether, this gets into the ESG automation. So LLM agents can ingest ESG reporting standards like SASB, GRI, and TCFD. These are like some reporting standards which can definitely automate compliance checks also in the payment flow. So we can take a look at like an example. If a corporate buyer's transaction exceeds certain thresholds, the agent could auto flag it for ESG reporting and also the carbon offsetting without manual intervention. So this definitely uses like a document passing, semantic search, and also the classification models tied into this real-time payment triggers. So the next step would be like intelligent routing. So payment systems today select paths based on fees or the speed. But with LLM powered agents, we can also introduce like carbon as a routing parameter. So this agent could choose a route, a transaction through a processor or a data center that uses renewable energy or prioritize green certified acquirers, all dynamically based on real time network conditions or the ESG profiles. So technically, building LLMs as microservices embedded into the payment orchestration engines and also using real-time APIs to fetch these sustainability metrics. So in the core logic, like the decision-making core logic is done via reinforcement learning, also like our optimization algorithms, tuned for both cost and at the same time carbon efficiency, which is our primary goal now. So in short, so we are not just using or like adding AI to make payments faster, but also we are trying to use the intelligent aspect of it and also the sustainability aware agents to reshape the overall value chain of the digital payments. And with this, it opens up like a very massive opportunity to make every transaction for climate action. So as we look through this, so now let's see how LLM agents can enable the sustainable payment systems. Now that I've introduced the high level functions of LLM agents, now let's see how the carbon foot tracking, ESG compliance, and intelligent routing and also like how it actually works operationally inside a payment systems. Like let's say it all starts with a payment initiation, a transaction is triggered like any other regular transaction. Now, when we see the capture, now as looking into the overall flow chart, the next step would be like we capture the transaction metadata, like how the merchant type, transaction amount, location, and also the method of payment. So this information becomes more crucial input for the analysis. So now when we get to the LLM agent layer, it runs the real-time carbon footprint analysis based on the merchant codes, transaction patterns, and also the linked carbon factors. And next up, it checks for the ESG compliance triggers, identifying the transaction needs to be flagged or reported based on the sustainability standards. And the next step would be making a routing decision. So it tries to process the payment through greener, low carbon networks wherever possible. But as we all know that LLM doesn't really work in a like a very isolated mode. Here, the agent cross checks external carbon accounting platforms like Persephone or the ESG data providers such as MSCI, which can help validate and refine its emission estimates. So it's more of like an additional confirmation kind of or like a validation aspect. So based on these steps and also the based on the data that we receive after this, it either recommends the carbon offset options to the payer, such as hey, rounding up the payment to fund a carbon removal project, or simplify proceeds with the eco-optimized routing, and also which can log the ESG relevant metadata for future reporting and audits. So as we see, finally the transaction is completed, carrying with it not just with the financial records but also embedded, and also it verifies a bit of sustainable data. So in short, the payment itself becomes more sustainable with intelligence, transparency, and also more of like carbon impact awareness built in. So how we can say that is like all powered by LLM agents working silently in the background. So again, on a high level, so we don't need to go into the detail, but on a high level, again, how it works is the payment initiation and the capturing the transaction metadata. And the next step is getting into the LLM agent where the carbon footprint analysis, ESG compliance, and the routing happens. And then we look for the external platforms to validate, and then we decide routing path. So do we want to route through the carbon aware routing, or do we want to route through the ESG compliance check routing? So based on that, we provide more offset suggestions and also like incentives for choosing a specific eco-friendly route. And after that, we try to complete the transaction, and it tries to log what exactly is the carbon or the ESG metadata to just see what exactly has happened after this transaction has been completed. As we go to the next time, so next slide. Here, as we were discussing how the overall flow works, so we also need to know, like, hey, how exactly this is being analyzed and what exactly happens, like, once the transaction is made. So now, as we move deeper into the application of these LLM agents for green finance, so one of the most important and transformative capabilities we unlock is the real-time carbon footprint analysis at the point of transaction. So how does this work under the hood? So let's see, like the first large language models, the LLMs are fine tuned with two primary sources of data. So first thing is transaction metadata. So the details like merchant category codes, transaction amount, payment method, location, and even the device type. Then the next step is the external carbon databases. So the comprehensive data sets that map industries, products, and activities to corresponding carbon emission factors. So with this foundation, now the LLM agent can parse each incoming transaction stream, and also it can classify transactions based on carbon benchmarks like industry standards. So specifically, it has to definitely follow some good industry standards to make sure how these benchmarks are being classified and how they are being adopted to. So the next step would be to instantly estimate the carbon footprint attached to that specific transaction. So now as we are seeing this, we can also think it in a specific way. Like in the past, estimating carbon emissions involved gathering months of receipts, invoices, supplier reports, and manually calculating these called like scope 3 emissions, which are like usually provided by the companies and also analyzed on specific factors. Now that the LLM agents for with every swipe, every checkout, and every payment in whatever way try to make can carry an instant intelligent carbon score, which can be embedded natively inside the payment infrastructure itself. So this way, by generating the carbon estimates, it is doesn't become just the beginning. It's more about integration that makes it more actionable. So as I was mentioning, so there are some platforms like Persephone. It's a leading carbon accounting SaaS provider at this point, which can be connected with the secure APIs. So now LLM agents can cross-reference these internal estimates with verified emissions data, refining and validating results dynamically. So this means that businesses don't just measure, they can also report, offset, or optimize their carbon footprint in real time, but it's like very much real time. It's not like getting these reports, analyzing it manually, or running through some jobs after a few months or something like that. So how the practical use case applies here? So one of the hardest challenges in sustainability today is accurately tracking the scope 3 emissions, which is very important because it's the indirect emissions that occurs across a company's full supply chain. So it can be like vendor deliveries, or it can be like the customer product usage, or it can be the logistics partners, or it can be the third party services, or it can be overall logistics on top of different branches located in different countries too. So today, the scope 3 reporting is often delayed, as I was saying, because it happens based on some assumptions, and definitely it's prone to large errors. So with LLM powered real time analysis, the companies can dynamically track and report the scope 3 emissions as business happens and it keeps running. So which is more I'd say like accurate, and also which provides more granularity and also credibility. In a sense, so we are here not just transforming the payment gateways, but also we are building tools that businesses already rely on every day. So, and also to make it more live, intelligent carbon tracking, and also the sustainability optimization systems. Here, finance more becomes not just a transaction medium for us, it also becomes like a real time sustainability engine. This is where, like for us, AI is truly enabling a smarter, also like greener financial future for us. So, as AI is being adopted in a lot of places, it's also very, I would say, like it's very wise also to use in the sustainability aspects as well, because that has become like a very big thing, and it's just not like a trend, it is going to be very much adopted in the future. So now, once we have the real-time carbon insights at the transaction level, the next step is to take an action on it. So this brings us to the concept of carbon-aware payment routing. So traditionally, the payment networks route transactions, as I was saying, like based on speed, cost, or reliability. So now we've come together like a payment orchestration engine, where we can analyze the routing options, as I was saying earlier, on a high level. In detail, how it works is like we try to get the carbon profile of each payment processor, and also we try to get the energy sources used by the underlying data centers, and also we try to get the total energy cost of the transaction. Looking at this on a high level, there are some things we still need to understand. So what exactly is greener networks? So payments could be routed through processors and also the infrastructure that operate in low carbon zones. For instance, AWS or Azure regions are powered by predominantly by renewable energy. So what exactly is renewable energy again? So transaction paths could prioritize data centers and processors that commit to 100% green energy using real-time data from their operational disclosures, or also like the third-party certifications. Here we have to also focus on the energy minimization. So agents can prefer paths that minimize the computation load, and also the number of hops it has to make for the transaction to happen, and also the energy intensive cryptographic operations. So here we all the agents can also try to get this into a better shape, so less energy is used overall to make the transactions. Altogether, a lot of strategic partnerships with very conscious or like eco-friendly conscious companies, like even like Stripe is doing it. Like Stripe Climate allow businesses to not only route greener, but also it automatically contributes to the carbon removal projects. So imagine every time you buy a coffee or make an online payment, The transaction just it's not just about moving money from your pocket to the merchant's pocket. So it's more about making a micro decision that is also favoring the planet. So here, AI and green finance can come together and help this embedding the sustainability decisions, including technical payment infrastructure invisibly and at larger scale, and also like even the mid-scale companies also can use this kind of technologies to make sure we are really working towards the sustainability aspect. Now that we also have seen in the past slides, LLM agents can analyze and route transactions sustainably. We also need to make sure how to automate the ESG compliance. So ESG compliance inside financial transactions and how this reporting workflow usually works. So today, ESG compliance is often manual, fragmented, and also like more, I would say like a retrospective aspect of it. So ideally, companies include or like do these kind of things in general as part of the overall analysis. So companies pull data from various business units, validate the ESG metrics. Again, the standards, as I was saying in one of the slides, they are like SASB or GRI. So these are some standards that ESG systems follows. And next step, they manually compile the sustainability reports and then undergo a costly audits for verification. As we see this, like the steps seems fine, like getting the data from different systems or like trying to combine together and all these things, but this is very time consuming process, and also it introduces gaps, errors and inconsistencies, because it all depends on the data that is being shared from different units. So there is definitely a lot of chance for getting these into uh, large error prone systems. So how can LLM agents help here? So LLM agents can definitely help by using the fine-tuned LLMs, using a lot of agents to automate the ESG compliance workflows. What happens exactly here is it passes each transactional and operational data stream and it maps them to the relevant ESG category. Either it can gain towards like environmental aspect or social practice or the governance transparency. So generating preliminary ESG reports dynamically as data flows in definitely helps this process rather than waiting for quarterly or annual cycle. So as I was saying, like the standard alignments where it was like we have to follow some standards. So LLM agents can be programmed to align these outputs to automatically get integrated with the standards. SASB, it actually stands for the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, and the GRI stands for Global Reporting Initiative. So this means that companies can generate reports ready for investor scrutiny, regular audits, and also the voluntary disclosure. So we can definitely in real time know how the companies are using these sustainability aspects and definitely suggest them to make some changes. As we have talked a lot about AI and also specifically LLM agents and how they can make payment gateways smarter and greener, now let's also summarize the core benefits that businesses, consumers, and society at large can expect when we integrate these capabilities into real world financial systems. So it can help with the lower emissions. And the first and foremost is like every transaction processed through a carbon aware AI optimized gateway helps to reduce the carbon footprint. And the next thing is a better ESG performance. So the companies that adopt AI powered green payment technologies can naturally be positioned to improve their ESG scores, which can definitely benefit them. So ESG performance is increasingly tied to investor trust, customer loyalty, and also the regular advantages. So these are like a lot of things that we have to take care of. And another thing is really important here is the transparency. So one of the major advantages of AI integration is that it enhances accountability in financial operations. As we were discussing, every routing decision, carbon calculation, and the ESG compliance action can be logged, traced, and validated for the future use. This means businesses aren't just claiming to be sustainable, they have to prove that they are really working towards a sustainability with the real verifiable data that trails back by the AI driven analytics. Now, well, AI powered green payment gateways open up exciting possibilities. It's important for us to address these very challenges and considerations that come with deploying these systems at scale. So now, what are the some important aspects here? So the privacy and security. So payments systems can handle sensitive data like card numbers, transaction histories, and personal information. So integrating LLM agents must be done with privacy by design principles in mind. So it encrypts all data in motion and also at rest, and also anonymizing the transaction metadata wherever possible, and also implementing rigorous access controls, which can help with the audit trials. So we cannot just risk introducing vulnerabilities just to enable carbon tracking or ESG reporting. So we also need to make sure a lot of algorithmic bias is done. It's not just that being fair, but also we have to make sure it is unbiased as the data they are trained on. So, and the next step is validation. We have to make sure AI models, even the best ones, can hallucinate or drift over time. So that is why another aspect here is validation. So we have to regularly test AI outputs against the ground truth data that we receive. And the most important thing is like how green AI solutions can be integrated across the legacy systems. So banks, processors, and merchants can't afford full systems like overhauls overnight. So that is why we need more modular API driven architectures, which can gradually adopt this embedding intelligence into today's systems without requiring like a complete rewrite of the systems, which is very tedious, and also like businesses don't try to do quickly. And the last thing I would come up with here is how we can look into the future, how these future integrations can happen. So as we look at the future aspects of it, so we can try to have like a blockchain integration combining AI powered green finance with blockchain and carbon aware neural networks. So we can imagine payment infrastructures where every transaction is processed through fully carbon neural networks. And we also need to make sure how it is scaled globally. So like while most of today's green finance initiatives are more like concentrated in developed economies, we also need to make sure it happens in the underdeveloped countries as well. So the most important thing is like how we can make it more adopted and educated. So we can try to incentivize. So when we provide some incentives for eco-friendliness, a lot of companies are also like even the regular day-to-day users try to get better use towards the sustainability aspect of it, and they also try to spend wisely for the planet. In short, so AI powered payment gateways or like the systems won't just be about processing money, but it's more about processing change, building a smarter, greener, more responsible, also like a better financial future for us. That brings us to end of today's discussion. I definitely believe this gave you a fresh perspective on how AI, language model agents, and also the green finance can come together and transform the financial systems. Thank you so much for your attention and engagement.